Hello everyone and welcome to Lost in the Reel. Today I'm going to be ranking all 11 new release films that I saw in June of 2022. So, let's do it. This month, I'm going to be trying something a little bit different again with my ranking video. Instead of doing a tier list, I'm going to be ranking the movies from the worst to the best in a countdown style format. Down below are the 11 new release films that I saw in June 2022 and we'll be talking about today. Now, these movies were either released in theaters or streaming this last month or just recently dropped on PVOD. And before we get started, I must say that June was an exceptional month for new releases, so I cannot wait to dive in and start talking about what I've been watching. So let's start off with the worst movie I saw last month. Number 11 is My Fake Boyfriend, starring Kanan Lonsdale, Sarah Hyland, and Dylan Sprouse. In the film, a young man in a tricky situation follows the advice of his unconventional best friend and uses social media to create a fake boyfriend to keep his awful ex-lover out of his life. But everything backfires when he meets the real love of his life, and breaking up with his fake boyfriend proves harder than he ever could have imagined. Let's get this straight. My Fake Boyfriend is a hot mess. It's neither very funny or romantic, and it turns into a completely different kind of film in its last 30 minutes. So none of it really worked for me content-wise at least. But Kanan Lonsdale, who played Brahms from Love, Simon, is an absolute treat to watch. He's genuine, sweet, and easily the best thing about this film. Sarah Hyland and Dylan Sprouse are also very likable, but the way that their characters are written, it's really hard to like them as they are both batshit crazy, especially Sprouse. All in all, I didn't fully hate my time with this movie, and it is refreshing to see more LGBTQ mainstream comedies, but there was definitely way better Pride entertainment that was dropped last month. And number 10 goes to A24 and Alex Garland's Men, starring Jessie Buckley and Rory Kinnear. In the film, a young woman goes on a solo vacation to the English countryside following the death of her husband. Now, I was really looking forward to Men, but unfortunately it came and went in theaters in a matter of weeks, and I didn't have time to check it out then. So finally here we are, and it was released digitally. And man, I was so let down by this hodgepodge mess of a film. Alex Garland to me is a genius. Ex Machina and especially Annihilation are two of the most thought-provoking and original horror sci-fi films to ever grace our screens. But this felt like a student project compared to those masterpieces. My issue with Men lies in the fact that you can tell Garland has so many fascinating viewpoints and ideas that he wants to share here, but they get so muddled that he doesn't end up saying anything at all. And even though lead actress Jessie Buckley is giving it her all, he never gives her the time of day to flesh out her character beyond a woman of grieving. There are truly some beautiful moments in Men, like the scene in the tunnel with the echoes, and also proof of pure cinematic genius and craft, like the VFX and prosthetic work in the finale. But it all lands with a resounding thud. I appreciate film that gets people talking, that opens up our minds to new ways of thinking and pushes the boundaries of the medium. And Men had the potential to do all of those things, but in the end, it is a near complete misfire and an unfortunate waste of great talent. My number 9 is Jurassic World Dominion, starring Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Pratt, Laura Dern, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum, and a slew of other supporting actors. Dominion takes place 4 years after the destruction of Isla Nublar. Dinosaurs now live and hunt alongside humans all over the world. This fragile balance will reshape the future and determine once and for all whether human beings are to remain the apex predators on a planet they now share with history's most fearsome creatures in a new era. It started off with a bang and ended with a whimper. That is definitely what you could say for the Jurassic franchise. Though it was an inspired idea to bring back Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum to the same roles they originated nearly 3 decades ago, they are sadly given very little to do here. And the rest of the returning cast doesn't fare any better, because the screenwriters have tried to fit so many new characters into Jurassic World Dominion that everyone feels completely lost. Or they are completely forgotten about, like Dyken Lockman and Justice Smith. It also feels as if Colin Trevorrow had no idea where this story was going to end up, even while filming. Because this is one of the most haphazard and lazily plotted blockbuster movies I have ever seen. There are a select few set pieces that had me on the edge of my seat, like the street chase in Malta, and the Edward Scissorhands-like dinosaur hunting down Bryce Dallas Howard. But all of the good bits and pieces of Dominion are overshadowed by how superfluous and convoluted the storytelling is. I cannot count how many times characters in this movie incredulously say, "What?" Honestly, it would make for a good drinking game, and it makes you think that these were the actors' actual reactions to reciting the dialogue from this horribly misguided screenplay. I'll stick to the 1993 original, and honestly, the rest can all just be forgotten. My number 8 film from June 2022 is Paramount Plus's Jerry and Marge Go Large, starring Bryan Cranston, Annette Bening, and Rainn Wilson. The movie is based on the true story about couple Jerry and Marge Selby, who discovered how to fix the lottery and use their winnings to revive their small hometown. David Frankel, who directed Marley and Me, The Devil Wears Prada, and Hope Springs, among others, is the king of low-key, feel-good, and inoffensive dramedies, and he is back with, well, another low-key, feel-good, and inoffensive dramedy with Jerry and Marge Go Large. This one is definitely not anything to write home about, and you will probably forget about it the moment it ends. But Bryan Cranston and Annette Bening are having the time of their lives here, especially Bening, and the movie is just so damn sweet I couldn't stop smiling. They don't really make a lot of films like Jerry and Marge nowadays, and in these dark times, I think we could all use a little pick-me-up like this. And the number 7 spot goes to Netflix and director Joseph Kosinski's Spiderhead, starring Chris Hemsworth, Miles Teller, and Jurnee Smollett. Spiderhead is set in the near future when convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects in hopes of shortening their sentences. When one prisoner finds himself the test patient for a new pharmaceutical capable of generating feelings of love, he begins questioning the reality of his emotions and sets out to discover the truth. Spiderhead is a fascinating little sci-fi mindbender and one of Netflix's better original films of the year so far. But that's not saying much. Chris Hemsworth is definitely reason enough to check this one out, as he is relishing in playing this outrageous and unhinged villain. It's always so refreshing to see him play against type. Miles Teller and Jurnee Smollett are also quite good, though their chemistry could have used a little bit of work. Spiderhead is a film that's premise is a lot more intriguing than what we actually get up on the screen, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. Joseph Kosinski is a director to continue to look out for, and this year has been a doozy for him with this and Top Gun Maverick, though I definitely have to say that Maverick blows this one out of the water. My number 6 movie is Baz Luhrmann's nearly 3-hour biopic, Elvis, starring Austin Butler and Tom Hanks. The movie follows Elvis Presley from his childhood to becoming a rock and movie star in the 1950s, while maintaining a complex relationship with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. I'd like to start off by saying that I have never been a fan of Baz Luhrmann, whose garish and over-the-top filmmaking always ends up being more of a hodgepodge of visuals and sounds rather than an actual complete package. But after all of the glowing reviews and being a fan of Presley's music, I thought I would give another Luhrmann project a shot. And I have to admit that the auteur has crafted another extremely flawed movie, although I do think it is his best work, and I enjoyed mostly every minute of it. My biggest issues lie in the fact that I always felt like I was on the outside looking into Elvis's life, rather than getting to know the larger-than-life musician on an intimate level as I was hoping for. The movie's narrative, or lack thereof, is an absolute mess and seems to be running in circles, becoming redundant by the end. And all of the big emotional moments that could have hit so hard carry insufficient weight because Luhrmann refuses to let his film breathe and reflect. And finally, although I didn't despise Hank's turn as the villainous Colonel, I think his performance never elevates past a caricature, and he takes up far too much screen time from Butler. Which leads me to my positives, and of course, that is Austin Butler, who was shot out from obscurity into the spotlight with guns ablazing and pelvis thrusting. The young actor is a revelation here and deserves every ounce of praise he has been getting for his turn as Elvis. I just wish Luhrmann had allowed him to go even deeper with the role. Speaking of the director, though I think he has failed cataclysmically with his screenplay, his explosive kinetic direction really captures the feeling and spirit of Elvis and his revolutionary music. And I think that is really all we could have asked for. We are now getting into my top 5 with my number 5, Hulu's Fire Island, starring Joel Kim Booster, Bowen Yang, and Margaret Cho. This LGBTQ+ comedy follows a pair of best friends who set out to have a legendary week-long summer vacation with the help of cheap rosé and a group of eclectic buddies on the iconic Fire Island. You can check out my full review right up here, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on this film, but I do believe that Fire Island is a little bit too overstuffed, and it never tried to achieve anything groundbreaking on a storytelling level, although no one was expecting it to either. But this movie is just full of so many compelling characters, and I laughed throughout the entire thing, which says a lot because most comedies nowadays suck. And I also think that this movie really was lovingly crafted to celebrate the LGBTQ+ community, but really I think anybody can watch this film and enjoy it. This was definitely the best new Pride-related entertainment that June had to offer. My number 4 movie is Blumhouse and Scott Derrickson's The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke, based on the short story by Joe Hill. The horror film follows a 13-year-old boy who is abducted by a child killer and locked in a soundproof basement and begins receiving calls on a disconnected phone from the killer's previous victims. Scott Derrickson is back in his wheelhouse of psychological horror thrillers with The Black Phone, and it is so damn good to have him back. I had a blast with this movie. Not only was it frighteningly scary, I jumped out of my seat multiple times and was in a constant state of dread throughout, but it was surprisingly heartfelt and hilarious too. I thought our lead protagonist, played by Mason Thames, was excellent and carried the film effortlessly, along with his sister, played by Madeline McGraw, who had me in stitches. Their relationship and bond with each other is what really held The Black Phone together, for me at least. Ethan Hawke, as our villain, the Grabber, was chewing the ever-living hell out of the scenery, crafting a memorable character through a mix of menace, malice, and manic energy. And to top everything off, The Black Phone builds and builds and builds until all of its little puzzle pieces come together for a nearly perfect finale that had our entire theater clapping and cheering. I have 2 qualms with The Black Phone though that do hold it back a bit for me. First off, the writing, especially at the beginning, feels off. And I realized that they were going with 70s vernacular, but somehow the script feels cringy at the start. But luckily, once you settle into the flick, that cringiness does start to wear off. I also felt a little bit let down by how little was shared about our villain. I am all for a movie with ambiguity, but to have zero backstory besides a couple of little breadcrumbs felt like a missed opportunity to me. Personally, I would be so down for a prequel film that delved into the grabber's past to really connect the dots of the events of the Black Phone. All in all though, I really adored this movie and could see myself revisiting this one time and time again. The Black Phone has all of the ingredients of a fun popcorn horror flick with a serious amount of bites. And Derrickson proves he's one of the best guys working in the genre. Now, give us that prequel movie, Scott. My number 3 is Watcher, starring Micah Monroe and Carl Glusman. The psychological thriller follows a young American woman who moves with her husband to Bucharest and begins to suspect that a stranger who watches her from the apartment building across the street may be a local serial killer decapitating women. Watcher is a seductively scary and absorbing psychological thriller that sneaks up on you slowly and gets under your skin. It is beautifully shot and captures the fear and paranoia of being in a foreign country where you know no one and don't speak the language. Micah Monroe is absolutely magnetic in the lead role as a woman slowly beginning to unravel, proving she can carry a film on her shoulders alone. Monroe is one of those performers that I am continuously excited to see because her choice in projects always seems to lead to really intriguing work, and Watcher is no exception. I do fear that this film is so low-key and such a slow burn that it might fade into obscurity, but I really hope that that's not the case because Watcher is a sophisticated thriller that will give you goosebumps and send chills down your spine. I really can't wait to see what first-time feature writer-director Chloe Okuno does next. Number 2 is Apple TV Plus's Sundance Audience Award winner, Cha Cha Real Smooth, starring Dakota Johnson, Cooper Raiff, Raul Castillo, Brad Garrett, and Leslie Mann. The dramedy is about a young man who works as a bar mitzvah party host who strikes up a friendship with a mother and her autistic daughter. Cha Cha Real Smooth is 24-year-old Cooper Raiff's second feature film after the 2020 South by Southwest Grand Jury Prize winner, Shithouse. And after only 2 movies, I can safely say that I will go out of my way to see every production that this young auteur is responsible for from here on out. Raiff has such a knack for authentic, hard-hitting comedy. He is able to conjure this achingly awkward feeling from situations that are much like moments you might have experienced in your own personal life before, creating this genuinely organic sense of humor that is rare to find nowadays. Cooper Raiff anchors the film with such charisma and charm, I honestly could not take my eyes off of him. The chemistry he shares with Dakota Johnson is electric as well. I also have to shine a spotlight on newcomer Vanessa Berghart as Johnson's daughter who is on the spectrum. The scenes she spends with Cooper Raiff's Andrew in the film are some of the very best, and they round out such a dynamic trio. What I love about Cha Cha Real Smooth so much is its delicate balance of brutally honest real-life drama and sweet, wholesome sincerity. I had a huge smile on my face from ear to ear throughout the entire movie, unless I was ugly laughing or crying. In a time when everything seems so bleak and everyone can feel like they are against each other, it is almost revitalizing to have a movie tell it like it is, but also show such a positive outlook on life, love, and the human race. And my number 1, my favorite film from June 2022 is Hulu's Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, starring Daryl McCormick and Emma Thompson. The film follows Nancy Stokes, a 55-year-old widow who is yearning for some adventure, human connection, and some good sex. So she calls upon the titular Leo Grande, a charming sex worker, and together they find a surprising human connection. Good Luck to You, Leo Grande took me completely by surprise and stole my heart. Emma Thompson and Daryl McCormick are so incredible, brave, and raw here. I honestly couldn't see any other performers in their respective roles. This reminded me a lot of the Before trilogy in many ways, and is just as great, which is saying a lot. Namely, it's just 2 people conversating with one another throughout the entire runtime. and in many hands that would be a tedious affair. But Sophie Hyde and Katie Brand have created one of the most gripping films of the year. The sex positivity and message of feeling comfortable in your own skin really struck a chord with me, and I was shocked at many of the twists and turns this movie took, which led to a climax that felt like I had been stabbed in the gut because of how much it hurt. I fell in love with these two characters and never wanted Leo Grant to end. This is one of the finest films of the year, and whatever you do, please don't miss out. Thank you so much for watching Lost in the Reel. What would your ranking of June 2022 movies look like? And how did you like this new setup? Do you prefer this countdown style or the tier list more? Sound off in the comments section down below. And until next time, my friends, take care.